There was a young man named Daniel. Daniel was known as a very talkative person. He always had something to say. If someone disagreed with him, he argued. If someone criticized him, he immediately defended himself. If someone misunderstood him, he tried to explain everything. He believed that whenever someone said something about him, he had to respond. One day, Daniel started working at a small company. He was hardworking and intelligent, but he had one problem. He could not stay silent. Whenever his manager gave him advice, Daniel explained why he had done things differently. Whenever a colleague made a mistake, Daniel pointed it out. And whenever someone criticized him, he became angry. One morning, his manager called him into his office. Daniel expected praise for his hard work. Instead, his manager said, "Daniel, you have a lot of potential, but you need to learn one important thing." Daniel looked confused. "What is it?" His manager smiled and said, "Learn when to speak and when to remain silent." Daniel did not understand. He thought, "How can silence make me successful?" His manager did not explain further. A few days later, something happened. Daniel was working on an important project with his team. During a meeting, one of his colleagues made a serious mistake. Everyone noticed it. Daniel immediately wanted to speak. He wanted to say, "I told you this would happen." But then he remembered his manager's words, "Learn when to speak and when to remain silent." So Daniel stayed quiet. The meeting ended. Later, his colleague came to him. "I know I made a mistake," he said. "Thank you for not embarrassing me in front of everyone." Daniel was surprised. He realized that his silence had protected someone's dignity. For the first time, he understood that silence was not weakness. It was control. A few weeks later, Daniel faced another situation. Someone at work blamed him for a mistake he had not made. Everyone was looking at him. Daniel felt angry. He wanted to shout. He wanted to defend himself immediately. But instead, he took a deep breath and remained silent for a few seconds. Then he calmly said, "Let's look at the facts before we decide who is responsible." They checked the records. The truth became clear. Daniel was not responsible. His manager looked at him and smiled. "You see," he said, "you didn't need to fight. The truth spoke for you." That sentence stayed in Daniel's mind. He began to change. He stopped responding to every negative comment. He stopped explaining himself to everyone. He started listening more. And something unexpected happened. People began to respect him more. Not because he talked more, but because when he spoke, his words had meaning. Daniel discovered something that many people learn very late in life. You don't have to answer every question. You don't have to react to every insult. You don't have to prove yourself to everyone. And you don't have to win every argument. Sometimes silence is the strongest answer. But silence is not always about other people. Sometimes silence is about yourself. One evening, Daniel went to a quiet park after a difficult day. He sat under a tree and turned off his phone. No messages, no social media, no conversations, just silence. At first, he felt uncomfortable. His mind was full of thoughts. But after a few minutes, everything became calmer. He started thinking about his life. He thought about his dreams. He thought about his mistakes. He thought about the people he had hurt with his words. And he thought about all the things he had said when he should have remained silent. For the first time, Daniel was not trying to impress anyone. He was simply listening to himself. And in that silence, he discovered something important. Sometimes, we are so busy talking to the world that we forget to listen to our own hearts. We live in a world that is constantly making noise. Phones are ringing. Notifications are appearing. People are talking. Videos are playing. Everyone wants attention. Everyone wants to be heard. But very few people know how to be silent. Silence gives us something that noise cannot give us: clarity. When we are silent, we can think before making decisions. We can control our emotions. We can understand our mistakes. We can listen to others. And most importantly, we can understand ourselves. Of course, silence does not mean that we should never speak. There are times when we must speak. We should speak when someone is being treated unfairly. We should speak when the truth needs to be told. We should speak when someone needs our help. But we should also know when our words will only create more problems, because sometimes saying nothing is better than saying something we will regret. Remember this, a loud voice does not always mean a strong person. Sometimes, the strongest person in the room is the one who has the power to stay calm. The person who can listen without interrupting. The person who can walk away from an unnecessary argument. The person who doesn't need to prove their worth to everyone. That is the real power of silence. Daniel learned this lesson slowly. He learned that not every battle deserves his energy. Not every opinion deserves his reaction. And not every person deserves an explanation. From that day forward, he still spoke. He still laughed. He still shared his opinions. But he learned something new. He learned to choose his words. And he learned to appreciate silence. Because sometimes, silence is not empty. Silence is where we find peace. Silence is where we find clarity. Silence is where we understand ourselves. And sometimes, silence is where we find the strength to become a better person. So the next time you feel angry, pause. The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. The next time you feel the need to explain yourself to everyone, pause. Take a breath. And remember, you don't always need to respond. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words.